So let's say you became fascinated with the Elvish languages that Mr. Tolkien created, either from watching the movies or reading the books or watching some videos. And so you want to try and learn one, but you know that there are multiple. The two main ones are Sindarin and Quenya. So if you don't have a specific one already chosen, you know, your favorite, then which one should you choose? Let's try to answer this question today. So Professor Tolkien, before he became professor, actually started with creating Quenya. Back then, and you know, it was over a century ago, it was called Quenya and represented a much different language than what we have today. But nowadays, Quenya, especially, you know, within the finished written story of The Lord of the Rings and the whole legendarium, Quenya is sort of similar to real-world Latin in that, you know, doctors, scholars may know it, use it, and technically, you know, it exists, but it's more ceremonial, ancient, used within certain, you know, use cases only, like names, spells, etymology, stuff like that. Of course, it's possible that some elves use it within the legendarium, within, you know, the third and fourth ages maybe even. But essentially, it represents this older language, more similar to the primitive Elvish language which elves created when they first awoke in Middle-earth. And Quenya really became that because of how popular Sindarin has become in the story of the legendarium, you know. Basically, because the Noldor elves, who basically spoke mostly Quenya, weren't in Middle-earth for a while, Sindar elves, which spoke Sindarin, first of all, they fully finished this language and it became very distinct from Quenya. But it also comes from the primitive Elvish language, but it became so different that Mr. Tolkien said that it's probably the most, you know, distinct one from the primitive Elvish, the Proto-Elvish language. And so Sindarin became the lingua franca of Middle-earth when it comes to Elvish languages, basically. Of course, not Western, not common speech, when it comes to Elvish languages, right? Even Sylvan elves spoke Sindarin later on. And when it comes to the external history of the legendarium, we can say that Sindarin is slightly more developed than Quenya. There were slightly more rules and words created directly by Mr. Tolkien for Sindarin than for Quenya, but just slightly. Both of them have been finished to basically the same degree and then expanded on by the community. So now the second category you may want to look at is the inspiration behind the language. If you just want to speak one that's maybe closer to you, you know, you want to learn one that might be easier for you to actually master, you might want to look at the inspirations that Mr. Tolkien had behind these languages. For Quenya, it was mostly Finnish. So if you're learning Finnish or other Nordic languages, Quenya might be easier for you. It also had some influence from Greek and Latin. And Sindarin is mostly Welsh. So if you're more into these old English, British languages, then you might like Sindarin more. And finally, let's look at the phonology and the characteristics overall of these languages. Quenya is much more limited within the phonology. It doesn't even have the TH, you know, that we have in English. It has this distinct style of phonology, pronunciation, this distinct sound. Because of it, because of the limited number of letters, you know, consonants, vowels, diphthongs. And mainly it uses different tenses within verbs and usually suffixes to create sentences. Sindarin has basically all the consonants you can think of, a lot of vowels as well. It also has consonant mutations, which means that in certain scenarios, consonants change depending on, you know, the linguistic environment that a consonant might be in. You know, when it comes to conjugation, noun, inflections, a certain word order, or articles influencing the consonants that come after them. There are many possibilities of consonant mutations, and it's one of the most difficult parts of Sindarin, to the point where sometimes if you see a word in the dictionary, it's basically never going to appear in this dictionary form in a real sentence because it always mutates. So that's crazy. So yeah, basically Sindarin, you have Legolas, you have Thranduil, you have Sindar elves, and basically all other elves. And yeah, Quenya, you have this more ancient language. Think Galadriel, think, Aragorn's kingly name, King Elessar, so that's Quenya. So these are basically your choices. I hope that, this helped you and that now maybe one language resonates with you more than the other. Just follow your intuition because that's how you're gonna get the most fun and the most results out of your constructed language learning. So now I have courses on both Sindarin and Quenya in my community, and I'm making a more advanced video about Sindarin versus Quenya there, and it's gonna be released today also. So click the link in the description and I'll see you there.